Hello friends, in this video I will be talking about blocks, procs and lambda. What is block? Block are enclosed in a do and statement or with the curly braces. So what is the way to define a block? Let me take you an example. So we generally define the block with the do and syntax. It is generally used with each or map or any other syntax that starts with do and end. So that's a block. But we cannot directly define the block like this. Do and put something. We cannot define like this. Let me run that. Okay. Syntax error means this is not a way how we can define a block. Even this one as well. For the single line, how we can define the block? We can use in array dot each in one line syntax. So that will be a block. But we cannot define this block as well. If we define like this, for example here, that will not be a block. If you ask what is your class, it will tell you it is a hash. So so that's a block with the do and do and, but we cannot define the block directly like this. So so now how we can define the block? Then we can use the lambda. So now we will talk about the lambda. So what is lambda? Lambda is a way to define a block. If we need to define a block, use lambda. Lambda is an object of proc class. I will show you. So how we can define the lambda? So there is an command lambda. Okay, now open curly braces and close. We can print here some anything. Okay, so we have defined a one block here that is executing, that is printing puts hello, and that is executing the code inside what we have written. We can assign it to a one object here. We can assign this lambda to an object, and now we can call this block. How we can call this block? Using this method dot call. Okay, see here it is printing hello. Okay, so this is a way you can define a block. Even you can define multi-line block like this do and. Use this syntax lambda instead of this curly braces. Use do and. Okay, let me run this. Here, see, I have defined, I have assigned into an object. Now I am calling this call. Now it will execute this three times hello. Now put something. Whatever we have written inside this, we can define this block, assign into an object, and we can call that object. So that's the purpose of lambda. There is another syntax that you can define this lambda like this. You can use this arrow function, like so. Instead of this lambda, you can write this arrow function, and now you can define this block. Let me run this. Object.call. See, it has print something. Now let me talk about with the parameter. You can define the lambda with some parameter, like suppose I have created this block that is accepting one parameter, right? So now I can define in this way. I write this lambda and use it. Let me, yeah. Okay, now this lambda function, now this lambda block is accepting one argument. Now I can call this with call, now passing one argument. Whatever I pass here, it will print puts key. So this value will come here as a key and you can print this. So that's the way you can pass one argument or even two argument. That's up to you. So instead of this lambda, you can write an arrow function as well. That is one parameter it is accepting, and suppose if I have passed one number, that is multiplied by 2. Now let me run this. Object dot call passing 5 to the 10, that it is multiplying and returning 10. So that's the way you can pass as an argument. Okay, So it is one line syntax, but if you are using multi-line, you can also define like this. We run this one as well, object.call. Okay, so it is running this. I am printing this, and then this one. So this is the way of defining multi-line. Okay, and and also this lambda function, it returns the last statement. Here it is printing number multiplied by 2. That's why it is returning 4, right? We have defined this block, and last statement is number multiplied by 2. That's why it is returning 4. If we have switched the statement, like this is the first statement, and I have switched this one as the last statement. Now let me run this. It will return this statement, but puts method returns nil. So that's why if we call this one object dot call, it will return nil. Let me run. Okay, we have to pass one argument, number 4. Put to the 8. It has multiplied, and now it has run this one. So puts method just return nil. That's why it is returning nil. So it also returns the last statement. Now let me talk. Lambda is an object of proc class. So how I can say that if I am creating any lambda here, for example here, and this is the block I am defining, it is a proc. See here, it is a proc. I can ask with object as well. Let me assign it into an object. Now I can ask what is your class. It will say you I am a proc class. Okay, so lambda is an object of proc class. Now I will talk about the proc. What is proc? Proc is also used to define the block, the same way that lambda is using with the key and defining the blocks. With the same way, proc is also used to create a block, right? So now let me talk about the syntax first. Okay, so this is the syntax of defining any block, but at this time we are using the proc. So proc.new, and then we can define the block. See, now we can call similar way. We can call this one. We have defined nothing, that's why it is printing nothing, nil. But we can define something inside this. For example, puts hello. Okay, now we will call, so it will return the hello. Also the same way we can pass one argument here as well. Okay, see here, I can define this. Now it is also accepting the argument. Okay, so number can be 5. So it is printing this number multiplied by 5. So it is printing 10. It is returning the last achievement. Exact the same way. Okay, now let me talk about the difference between proc and lambda. If lambda is an object of proc, and proc and lambda both are used to define a block, then what's the difference? Means, how can I know that where should I use lambda, where should I use proc? At least I should know the difference. So let's talk about the difference between proc and lambda. Lambda are defined with arrow syntax and open curly braces and close curly braces, like this. And proc defined with proc.new, open curly braces, close curly braces. Both are proc object. Okay, so that's the one difference that we can define with this syntax, and we can say this is lambda and this is in proc. That's the first difference. And proc works without the argument, and proc don't care about the argument, and lambda will raise the argument error exception. Let me talk this one with an example. Okay, suppose I have defined one proc object, right, that is accepting one argument. Okay, I have created this object, it is accepting one argument. Now I can call this proc without passing the argument. Okay, it will not raise any error. I can pass this number, it will work here, it will print this one. I can pass the 2 argument, it will work. I can pass the 3 argument. Okay, so it will work. But if suppose I have defined this object of lambda here. Okay, now if I call this object without the argument, it will raise the error. Wrong number of argument. Given 0 because we haven't passed anything. Expected 1. It is expecting 1 argument. So that's why it has raised argument error. If we pass 1 argument, it will work. So we can say that lambda is strictly follow. If we are define the lambda, if we define this block with 1 argument, then it will accept the 1 argument. Otherwise, it will raise the error. So that is strictly follow. If we pass the 2 argument, it will raise. Strictly 1, it will accept. Okay. So that's the second difference. And the last difference that I will say here, proc returns from the current scope, while lambda return from the lambda itself. Let me talk this one in deep. This is what's the exact difference here. Okay, so now I will talk here. Suppose I have defined this one, this block, this lambda block that is returning 1, right? It is returning 1. Now if I call this one lambda dot call, okay, so it will return 1. Whatever we have defined inside this block, it will return 1, right? Now if I use this return with the proc, that it will return from this current scope. What is current scope? Self. It will say main. Main is the current scope, and we cannot return anything from this main scope. Let me show you first that we can return something or not. Suppose if I am returning something from here, self, that we cannot return from here. See here, an expected return, local jump error means we cannot return from the main scope. That is we are in the main scope here, self. See here, this is the main. We cannot return anything from here. Return self. It will erase the local jump error. Means we cannot return from here. Okay, now I will talk about this proc. If I define this proc here, and if I run this from my proc.call, it will also give you the same error, local jump error. We cannot return from the current scope, and proc returns from the current scope. Let's talk about the definition. Proc returns from the current scope. We are in the current scope, that's why it is returning from. It is not returning from this block, while lambda returns from the block. We have defined one lambda here that returns from this block, but proc returns from the current scope, right? And current scope here is main. Self, sorry. Here is main. Let me talk one more difference here. One more return with the method as well. So suppose if I have defined one method here and we have written something, at the end we have written something, but here we are defining one proc that is returning, right? And we are calling this proc. That's it. And now the current scope has changed. It is not from the main. Now here if you talk about, it will be an object. Okay, so here the scope has changed. Now if we call this method, it will return from this method. Okay, it will return from here, and after that it will not execute anything. See, it is print this one before, and now this has returned this one, and now after that whatever you have written, it will not be executed. Okay, but that is not in the case of lambda. Let me redefine this method again, and if we are calling this method, it will print something. It has written from this statement only. Okay, it does not return from this method, and after that whatever is written, it will also run. See, it has written this one, and after this one as well. It has not written from this scope, it has written from this lambda itself. But in the case of proc, it has written from the current scope. Current scope is method. So Method is it is written from this method, and after that whatever is written, it does not print, it does not run the code after that. So that's the main difference.